Hello, Uta of Uta Hagen YouTube channel here. Also of utahagengrasswidow.wordpress.com blog. On the contact form is the way to contact me if you are one of my trans widow sisters wishing to tell your story through my voice. And I am here to tell a new trans widow testimony. My guess is we'll take either 2 or 3 parts to tell this story. This is Portia and her husband, Todd. Of course, both pen names because the ex-wives of men who have the cross-sex ideation that they are born in the wrong body, meaning that this man believes he is actually female, are often together with their allies rather abusive of us and try to cancel us. And basically we are we are in a situation of mother erasure and female erasure. Now, I'm really proud of Portia because she pretty much put a stop to the mother erasure. She had the revelation and thought through many different pieces of this, and she's doing a really, really good job, and she's lucky enough that he eventually left with someone like himself and went thousands of miles away. So she doesn't have to deal with him very much. So to start at the beginning, Portia and Todd were married for close to 10 years. She expressed a little bit of self-blame in a way because she said early on in their relationship she thought that he was unfaithful to her perhaps before they got married. And so she sometimes looks back and wonders why she didn't, stop the relationship. Why did she go through and get married to him and have children with him? Now, anybody who gets divorced for any reason can have these kind of thoughts about why did I make this decision? What was wrong with my thinking and that kind of thing. And I think it's actually best to let that go and don't dwell on it. Of course, I've had those kind of thoughts too. Why didn't I recognize the narcissism? Why wasn't I suspicious about this or that detail? And now I'm 66 years old. I'm not going to go back there and do that to myself. My mission is to be the voice of women like Portia and Ophelia and Juliet and the many increasing ranks of women who have to deal with this. And it's especially difficult when you are dealing with this cross-sex ideating man who is the father of your children. That's his biological reality that he doesn't want to admit or own up to. Anyway, so Portia and Todd did get married sometime after college and had 3 children who at the time that it all started were about maybe 6 or 7 and 4 and 18 months to 2 years old. So we're talking about little kids, beautiful family. They're the kind of people that I would walk by in the street and say, oh, that's wonderful. I had always wished I could have a 3rd child. During some time of unemployment, after Todd finished his graduate degree in a building and art-oriented field, he wasn't getting a job right away. Portia was working in a movement-oriented field, teaching a movement style to people, and and Todd was just kind of working odd jobs and trying to figure out getting a job in the field that he had trained in. And so I guess at home, when he was at home alone, he got into this type of pornography, which is called hypnosissy porn. And first of all, my Uta's thing on pornography is it's not sexy. But apparently, a couple of the men that I took up with and then quickly left off with were wanting me to watch just the garden variety pornography with them, to which I said, no, no thanks. We need to be here and appreciating and, having all of our five senses involved in our intimate acts. So some evening, getting back to Portia, some evening when the children are already asleep, and of course Portia's, given birth just less than 2 years ago, but Todd has already kind of moved on into this, now we're going to spice up what we have in bed here. He mentions to her that he's been watching this and, let's try this out and let's watch this and then do it, And so she's sort of like, okay. And so she did that. And then kind of let him know, I don't really think this adds, we obviously know how to get it on. We have 3 kids, why? And a short while after, Todd announces to her that he actually has figured out that he is born in the wrong body. He is truly a woman, and if she's not going to accommodate him with this, then how can this work? And actually, we're 2 lesbians, and she was pretty much in shock, and they agreed that he would go away for 4 days, something like this. She had 4 days to herself to think about this. And I've had a couple of phone conversations with her about this, and she told a little bit about it on another channel once, but not as in depth. So we're at the point that she's thinking about this. Oh, we've got 3 kids. For their sakes, should I try to pretend I'm a lesbian with the father of my children? And she told me, I'm sort of embarrassed that it took me 4 days to figure out, okay, the answer is N-O, no. And I have always said, don't be embarrassed. Don't go back and kick yourself, because this is just out of the blue. It is not something that you expect. You married this guy. You had children with him. You thought you were being somewhat traditional. You were celebrating holidays. You were going and visiting the grandmas and grandpas. You didn't expect this. So she got him to move out, and the kids come back, as is often the case, from a weekend with him, saying that, well, Dad wants us to call him Mom now. So she put an end to that. She said, you're not going to do this. And she talked to the children and said, to her 2 sons, she says, you are boys. You're going to grow up to be men. We can't start having this kind of talk with your little sister who's just learning who is who and everything. And no, we're not going to do this. So by this time, Todd is quite accustomed to being oversexed, and he finds another guy like himself. In other words, another cross-sex ideating man who will call himself a lesbian, and these 2 became a couple. And the other one also is working essentially in the same field, and they are deciding to go, to where it's a little bit more friendly for us. And so they moved out to the West Coast, to one of those woke towns, Vancouver, Portland, Seattle, one of those, or someplace in California, any place. Pick, put a pin in a map. Anyway, so they move out there, and they both get jobs in their field, and well-paying jobs, and everybody thinks that they're cool and wonderful, and who knows, maybe they hang out with Caitlyn Jenner. And Todd gets away with not paying child support for 3 children. Fortunately for Portia, she rekindles something that she had actually with a high school boyfriend. So she's not lonely, and that's what she wanted. She spent some time alone, and, this guy came back into her life, and he's pretty much ready to take on the stepfather role. And so she's at the point of saying, listen, you're going to have to pay some child support. And so that's the ongoing situation where a trans widow is trying to get something out of their father to pay for their expenses. And she's also decided to homeschool them, along with her movement job, teaching movement to people. She is doing the homeschooling bit because in their suburb of a university town, the kids are starting to get taught this ideology in school, and it's actually very upsetting to the 2 older boys who feel quite abandoned by their father. So that's as much as we're going to cover in episode 1 of Trans Widow Testimony, Portia. Another little piece that came to my attention is an interesting one. Apparently, older cross-sex ideating individuals, like my ex Nettie, are having their own little tiffs with the newer generation of I'll use the word this time, the gender ideology, because they did their surgeries at a time when it was from one of the 2 sexes, supposedly, in quotes, into the other. And they support the binary. They just think that you can change your sex. And they're in error on that. You cannot change your sex. You can change your appearance, and you can try to change your voice, and you can ideate all sorts of things, and you can go to those specialized stores and buy all kinds of equipment and things to watch, and change the way you experience sensuality and intimacy, but that's not going to change who you are, actually. So, this was Portia, Trans Widow Testimony, Part 1. Part 2 will cover Todd's behavior when he comes back for a tragic last visit with a terminally ill sibling. Stay well in mind and body, always.